That was Revolution by Diplo, the Sean and Bobo remix. Welcome to the Rise Weekly Review for March 21st to March 28th, 2022. On Tuesday, a man was shot to death in South Shore. Around 6:25 p.m., the man identified as 33-year-old Rondi Hill was on the 7400 block in South Jeffrey. According to police, someone approached him and shot him in the face. He was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. Anyone with information on this or other Chicago crimes is asked to call 311 or leave an anonymous tip at cpdtip.com. A shooting in South Shore on Thursday left three women injured. According to police, the women were sitting in a vehicle near 76th and Merrill around 9 p.m. According to police, someone inside a silver sedan drove up and fired multiple shots into the car. A 34-year-old woman was shot in the right shoulder and back. A 44-year-old woman was struck in the face, and a 32-year-old was hit in the right leg. The 34-year-old and 44-year-old were taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center. The 34-year-old was last reported in critical condition, and the 44-year-old was in stable condition. The 32-year-old was taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital and last reported in good condition.
Seems like the three ladies were just getting in their car, I believe getting ready to pull off, and a random car came down the street, fired upon the car, lots of shots, and unfortunately all three have been taken to local hospitals.
During the week, WGN News reported a federal indictment involving three members of the U.S. military who were allegedly supplying weapons being used in a war between the Pocket Town gangster Disciples and the No Limit Stones in South Shore. According to the report, three U.S. soldiers based out of Fort Campbell on the Kentucky-Tennessee state line were involved in delivering weapons used in shooting between the gangs. One of the soldiers, by the name of Brandon Miller, who has ties to Pockettown, was accused of buying 32 assorted guns and bringing them to Chicago to provide to individuals he was associated with. The news story suggests that Miller was helping to arm Pockettown members following a mass shooting on 79th by two members of the No Limit Stones at a party in South Shore. The attack wounded 7 people and resulted in the death of 27-year-old Dante Thomas. The attack was said to be in retaliation for the murder of Gregory Jackson III, better known as the rapper Little Greg, who was shot in the South Loop. While murder charges have not been filed for Little Greg's death, police arrested a man named Christopher Mosley after he was seen entering the vehicle that was at the scene of the barbershop shooting. Mosley was armed with a .40 caliber Glock 23 with a laser sight and a serial number linked to weapons sold by Miller. A high-speed chase Saturday on I-94 resulted in a crash with 5 people hospitalized. Around 10:50 p.m., a Chicago police officer tried to stop a vehicle near 87th and State. The driver was suspected of being connected with an armed robbery. The driver did not stop and continued driving, leading police on a pursuit. The chase ended with the vehicle crash on northbound I-94 near Sibley with another vehicle. 2 people were in the fleeing vehicle and were taken into custody. 3 people in the other vehicle were taken to hospitals with only minor injuries being reported. On Monday, a news story broke about thieves using a tow truck to steal donated vehicles that were going to be auctioned for a nonprofit. The owner of Sold by Offer Auction and Title Services, Antonio Alvarez, says the thieves used the tow truck to steal 6 donated vehicles worth a total of around $100,000 from his lot on Holman Avenue. The vehicles were supposed to be auctioned to raise funds for a nonprofit called Excite Labs, which gives artists spaces and resources for their work. Thieves had also stolen 600 solar panels worth about $100,000 from the lot on Thursday. The nonprofit was going to install them to save on energy costs. Alvarez says they found the solar panels at a scrapyard in Chicago Heights. Back in March of 2021, Alvarez was in the local news following an attempted robbery of his vehicle at a home on the east side. Alvarez was seen on video during this incident clinging to the vehicle while thieves drove off, leaving him hospitalized. Hammond police issued a warning to residents of the rise of a street drug combination that can increase the likelihood of an overdose. The Hammond police issued a public warning of an increased number of cocaine drug samples they've come in contact with that are laced with fentanyl. Fentanyl is a powerful opioid that is highly addictive and cheap to manufacture. Fentanyl is often used to cut street heroin to increase the seller's profit. Lake County had reported 5 overdose deaths from heroin laced with fentanyl over a 12-month period. However, over the same period, they recorded 55 deaths from cocaine laced with fentanyl. During the week, the department responded to 4 overdoses involving the cocaine and fentanyl mixture. 2 of the overdoses resulted in death. In Chicago, the Department of Public Health is partnering with Chicago Public Libraries in assisting residents coping with opioid addictions. The Chicago Department of Public Health reported that 1,303 people died from an opioid-related overdose in Chicago in 2020. To assist in reducing the number of opioid-related deaths, the health department is now distributing naloxone, an overdose reversal medication at 14 library branch locations. The Chicago Department of Public Health has trained staff at these locations on how to use the medications and recognize signs of an overdose. The sites include the South Shore and Jeffrey Manor libraries. Residents can come to the libraries and take a box of Narcan, which is a name brand for naloxone spray. The CDC recommends people take note of the signs of an overdose, which can include small, constricted, pinpoint pupils, loss of consciousness, slowed breathing, choking sounds, and cold, clammy, or discolored skin. If you think someone is overdosing, call 911 immediately. Administer naloxone if it is available, and try to keep the person awake and breathing, and lay them on their side to prevent choking. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration provides information through their hotline on treatment facilities and options. Their number is 1-800-662-HELP or 1-800-662-4357. During the week, the state of Indiana approved permitless gun carry. On Monday, Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb signed the House Enrolled Act 1296 that authorized permitless carry in the state. The law was signed despite opposition from several regional police agencies, prosecutors, and the Indiana State Police. The agencies argued that permitless carry would place officers at increased risk and could lead to increased gun violence. Opponents to the measure argued that without handgun permit system, police would no longer have a database to identify who is legally entitled to carry a handgun. Governor Holcomb said he was inspired to sign the law passed by the Republican-controlled General Assembly based on his strong support for the Second Amendment and recent U.S. Supreme Court rulings. The law is set to go into effect on July 1st. Public carry of a handgun is still denied to felons, non-citizens, persons convicted of domestic battery, violence, and criminal stalking, persons under restraining orders, indictment or deemed dangerous or mentally defective, or dishonorably discharged from the military. Handguns would also continue to be prohibited in schools and places of businesses can bar people from bringing handguns onto property. Illinois residents must have a valid Illinois carry license to carry in Indiana. Indiana Republican Senator Mike Brown made headlines during the week after making comments about the Supreme Court's ruling that legalized interracial marriage. During a conference call with reporters, Brown, who was arguing about state versus federal laws, was asked specifically about how that would apply to laws such as interracial marriage. Brown responded in a way that suggested that states should be allowed to decide, even if it meant overturning protections such as the one decided by Loving versus Virginia that legalized interracial marriage. Brown stated that when it comes to issues, you can't have it both ways, and that if you wanted diversity to shine, you would have rules that would be out of sync with what other states would do, and that was the beauty of the system.
And this basically puts it back to a point where, like most of these issues, where one side of the aisle wants to homogenize it federally, is not the right way to do it. This should be something where the expression of individual states are able to weigh in on these issues through their own legislation, through their own court systems. Quit trying to put the federal government in charge of not only things like we did navigating through COVID recently, where I think that was misguided, but in general. So no, I think this takes it back to a point where it should have never gotten beyond in the first place.
That same basis to something like Loving versus Virginia, the Supreme Court case that legalized interracial marriage.
So when it comes to issues, you can't have it both ways. When you want that diversity to shine within our federal system, there are going to be rules and proceedings. They're going to be out of sync with maybe what other states would do. It's the beauty of the system, and that's where the differences among points of view in our 50 states ought to express themselves.
In other news, the University of Kentucky researcher is examining the health impacts of manganese, lead, and other area pollutants on Chicago's southeast side. In local battles on development, environmental activists have attempted to tie area pollution to asthma and other respiratory issues that so far have lacked evidence to prove. Doctor of Public Health Aaron Haynes, however, is attempting to study whether the effects of manganese and lead from operations such as S.H. Bell, Watco, and others may be impacting brain functions. Previous research by Haynes has shown correlations between high manganese levels and low IQ scores in places such as southeastern Ohio. Other studies show similar effects for high levels of manganese and lead exposure. However, many of these have been on continuous indoor exposure. The extent to which outdoor environmental exposure to manganese and lead can have similar effects is currently still being evaluated, although some researchers suggest that current EPA standards are too high for what is considered safe. The researchers are looking to enroll additional participants ages 7 to 9 and are offering families $100 to sign up their children for testing. Those interested can contact 312-620-6675. And that ends our weekly review from March 21st to March 28, 2022. Thank you for joining us for this week in review. Peace.
Twerk it, baby.